Ladies and gentlemen, this is absolutely huge. A monumental victory for President Trump. Appeals court allows Trump to block money for federally funded newsrooms for now. This is just, a couple of hours ago. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. This is an article in the Times. Then you have PBS, NBC News, and others. PBS chief slams Trump's executive order aiming to cut federal funding for PBS. This is amazing for a number of reasons. PBS, NPR, and then you have the other, Radio Free Europe. Here's the issue, ladies and gentlemen. 92% negative media coverage. President Trump has received 92 to almost 100% negative media coverage from 2015 until today. Again, you will hear the legal analysis in a second. Hit subscribe. Share this everywhere. This is really, really important, okay? The media has been an extension of the Democratic Party, liberal Democrats, in many cases the far left, since 2015. I know this because I used to be. You can go to hagoodman.com. I was called the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet, according to the Huffington Post, and the unofficial scribe of Sanders' most hardcore voters, according to the Washington Post. When anyone, even on the left, is an actual obstacle for a second Bernie Sanders before he caved and showed himself to be part of the same corrupt system that he claims to be against, for a second he was an actual obstacle to a somewhat sinister corporate propaganda public relations machine. For a second, Bernie Sanders was. Okay, negative media coverage of Bernie Sanders. And then, of course, he helped create the absurd Trump-Russia myth, and it became a tool of the Democratic Party, okay? But you can read my writing on hagoodman.com. I understand what takes place. They first, for a moment, started with Bernie Sanders, but actually, right when President Trump began his presidential campaign, they went after him. And they haven't stopped with Bernie Sanders. Once he capitulated, was cheated in the 2016 primary, and became part of the same political machine that goes after anyone through media and other intel agencies. Well, before President Trump took them over, thank God. But there's a morally superior, highly educated, liberal public relations machine that is in part funded by taxpayer dollars. Like I said, they will go after even the far left, but almost always, 92 to 100% of the time, they will go after Trump. That includes NPR, PBS, and it's the definition of information that misinforms. What PBS and NPR have done, and the Washington Post and MSNBC and CNN and the New York Times, they are extensions of the Democratic Party's public relations. Let's continue. We'll continue in a second. Listen to this.
President Trump signed an executive order to eliminate federal taxpayer funding for NPR and PBS. The broadcasters get about $500 million in your public taxpayer money. Kim Strassel is a member of the Wall Street Journal editorial board and a Fox News contributor. Kim, welcome this morning.
$500 million, $500 million, $500 million in free campaign donations. PBS has nothing to do. PBS, NPR, and then you can look at CNN, MSNBC, the Washington Post. They're not supposed to be giving free advertising. That's what this is about. Jimmy Kimmel every night, his producers, Stephen Colbert, Seth Meyers, John Oliver, Jon Stewart. These people give free campaign donations in the form of the free press. When there's 90 to 100% negative media coverage of Trump and fake news and fabricated and information that misinforms pertaining to Trump Russia or Trump being an operative of another country, his tax returns, him trying to foment a rebellion, this is all nonsense. There's not even a kernel of truth in many of these stories. There's so many stories that had to be retracted, and these publications had to apologize. Stephanopoulos and ABC News paid Trump $15 million. I'm sorry, they had to pay $15 million in a defamation lawsuit. So, but let's continue. You can't give a $500 million, $500 million. You can't give $500 million for press and media that serves as campaign funding. And the rebuttal is, well, they're not funding the Democrats. Yeah, everything is filtered through, and the allure, the facade of objectivity. But every story, anything that permeates that originates within the Democratic National Committee, from the Steele dossier to the myth that Trump tried to foment an insurrection, which is complete nonsense. You have to be an imbecile to believe any of these things. That's why Trump won the popular vote. Most Americans are like, this is not true. This is absurd. And so you can't fund with taxpayer dollars public relations firms. That's essentially what an activist posing as journalists. Let's continue.
Hi, Shannon. How are you? Hi, Bill.
I'm good. I got to tell you, one of the first things that landed in my inbox was from the Free Press. They say this democracy is on life support. They say this is a page one out of the authoritarian playbook. What do you make of the cuts?
Well, look, the CPB, this has been something that people have had a very hard time justifying for a long time. And the conservative complaint with it is often that it is biased, and the president certainly expressed that view. And you can certainly think that it's pretty obvious. But there's other, even bigger reasons why you would get rid of these programs. One is, look, the rationale when PBS was created was that it was for more choice, because there were only 3 network televisions at the time. So this was a 4th. But as we all know, there are hundreds of stations you can choose from these days. Do you know that there are 15,000 AM and FM commercial radio stations and 4 million registered podcasts? So that's not a problem anymore. Also, the demographic. There was an advertising firm that did an analysis of PBS viewers and pointed out that the average person there that watches PBS is a woman in her 30s or 40s who owns a home, takes an average of 3 vacations a year, and has a postgraduate degree. And I think a lot of Americans might,
in other words, despises Trump with a passion and doesn't go to Thanksgiving because you voted Trump. And so you look, ladies and gentlemen,
wonder,
and it's like, let's just continue.
why so much money is going for one little demographic in a world of infinite choice.
Kimberly, this is a clip from March 26, right? This is Catherine Mayer in her testimony before Congress. Jim Jordan's doing the questioning, and it went like this.
Is NPR biased?
Congressman, I have never seen any instance of political bias determining editorial decisions. No.
In the D.C.
Political bias determining editorial positions doesn't mean political bias. Political bias determining editorial positions could mean the end product is actually biased, but the how it originated or how it was created or how it was produced, certainly not biased. So that's like when the Inspector General report stated there was no documentary or testimonial bias that Strzok and McCabe and Clapper and Brennan and Comey and all of these people were biased. Well, you're not going to get testimonial and documentary bias. What do you think these people are going to do? Write down, we despise Trump and we're going to utilize government bureaucracy to take him down and ruin his presidency. Signed, all of the government officials working under President Obama. Have a wonderful day. You're never going to get any of that. Well, of course, it's completely biased. And the NPR and PBS, it'll be something like this. President Trump today defended the January very bad, horrible insurrectionist people and said to the dismay of millions that he would pardon these lawbreakers. And it'll be something like that when in reality the issue was a double standard. You had billions upon billions and billions in property damage all throughout Trump's second term in his last year in office. PBR and NPR and PBS did not claim that left-leaning demonstrators were trying to foment a rebellion around the country. Even when on May 30th of 2020 they went after the White House. That's just one example. There's millions of others. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. Huge, huge victory for Trump and the country.